So I read an article in the San Jose Mercury News about a woman who jumped off the overpass on 880. And first of all, I'd like to point out that we don't know what was wrong with her, and that far more people who aren't diagnosed with a mental illness commit suicide. As many as 1 in 4 women, for instance, are diagnosed with a mental illness. So what does that tell you? Does it tell you that we should force medicate the normal people because they're just as likely, if not more, to attempt suicide? You know, doesn't make any sense. Our mental health system is broken. I just made a video about that. I'll put the title of the video in the description and in the comments. It's a 2-part series about how to fix our broken mental health system. Also, Santa Clara County Mental Health Department, I'd like to congratulate you on another amazing disgrace and failure. Utter failure, total failure. You had 5 hours to convince the woman not to jump. She still jumped, and thank goodness she lived through it. But you people failed, proving again and again, time and time again, that you do not know what you're talking about, that your ignorance leads to harmful consequences. Whether it is your promoting medication, psychiatric medication, to people who don't need it, who then suffer the harmful effects of it, including neurological damage, sudden death, the developing of real mental disorders and cognitive impairment. You people are just completely wrong in what you do. You're wrong every single day. You know, if you're going to look for one institution that is wrong every single day, it's the mental health, especially Santa Clara County Health Department and Santa Clara County Mental Health Services, Valley Medical Center Mental Health Services, their psychiatric inpatient facility, and every facility that they transfer patients to. They're all wrong every single day. They all do harmful practices to society every single day. With that being said, I can now move to the other topics. I'm actually going to cover a few videos in one. Some criticism came over saying that I'm not a Muslim, so why do I say that what I recommend is jihad, or what that I'm participating in is jihad? And two, that it's not the Muslim way. Okay, one, I'm a student of Islam, and I understand better what must be done than people who call themselves moderate Muslims, especially. Muhammad himself dealt with his immediate surroundings, the heathens around him, the infidels around him. He smashed the idols. He took Mecca, Medina by force, and the generals after him took over all of North Africa and parts of Spain. Okay, as they passed over the Strait of Gibraltar from Morocco, with the Moors and them. And so, what does this tell you? You know, it's Algeria and Egypt, Libya, Morocco, are all these places, you know, all of North Africa and parts of the Middle Belt, including the Empire of Mali, which made the greatest pilgrimage to Mecca in history to this day, you know, which is in West Africa. Are all these places, you know, insignificant? Is that not significant when Muhammad said, I tell you that the best Muslims are his generation and the one after, and the one after, in that order? Why? Because they're the ones who did what a jihadist is supposed to do. Okay? So I know that is not necessarily connected to the mental health, but what should be done with the mental health is that these people are killing people. They're practicing eugenics and population control on the quote-unquote undesirable populations. Look up the history of the Nazi doctors, Nazi psychiatrists, the history of eugenics and psychiatry. It's painfully apparent that what they're up to is drugging political dissidents and those people who are perceived to have mental illness, who are basically undesirable when it's quote unquote undesirable because the people who are pushing this agenda see these people as undesirable and unwanted and unneeded and unnecessary in society. So they're killing them. They know that there's a kill rate. Nazis study kill rates, okay? Say 1 in 100 people who take the medication die, as a direct result of the medication, the side effects, or what the medication leads them to do, okay? That means they're killing 1 in 100 undesirable people, but the rate is actually much, much higher than that, okay? Hair loss is the least of your problems, These things cause serious digestion problems that lead to death. They cause diabetes, which leads to death, high blood pressure, which leads to death. And nobody truly understands all the causes of death that the medication brings about. But they do understand that the side effects are the type of things that lead to death. So the actual death rate of these medications is more like 75%. And that's once you factor in everything. So 75% of the people who are put on medications, which almost always they're on for their whole life, they tell you that once you're on these medications, that you can't get off them. Consult your doctor before you get off them, things like that. And the doctor is never going to recommend that you get off the medication. You're basically on it for life. And it doesn't take very long for the side effects to affect you your whole life. For example, I've been on medication at one point in my life, and I'm not at liberty to say whether I am on it right now or not, because there's people persecuting me for my political views. I'm one of the political dissidents that they've taken to the psych ward. And so I have certain insights other people don't have. As you can see, I'm very logical, coherent. I have a higher understanding and a superior logic to that of those who have a degree in this pseudoscience known as psychiatry, and the pathetic pseudosciences associated with it, such as pharmacology and psychology. Now, pharmacology, when it has to do with psychiatric medications, not when it has to do with other medications, which they have some valid science and they have valid diagnosis. There's no chemical or diagnostic test for mental illness. There's only stupid little questionnaires, and brief interviews with psychiatrists who have no idea what they're talking about. There's no such thing as an expert in mental health. No one understands the nature of the mind. No one understands the mind-body-soul connection too well. They never solved the nature versus nurture debate. Even with it, the top psychiatrists have come out and said it's a hoax, it's a fraud, it's more political and economic than scientific, and that it is a hoax, and that they're concerned with behavior control. They've connected with CIA experiments, and it has to do with the order of society and political gain. And the pharmaceutical industry is one of the most profitable industries in America. It also came out recently that 9 out of 10 of the major pharmaceutical companies spend much more money and time on marketing than on research. I mean, there's so many reasons why this is immoral and wrong, and why the people who make it to the news, which there aren't really many of them if you think about it, who are quote unquote mentally ill, who do something, are far outnumbered by the people who aren't considered mentally ill, who do something, okay, who aren't diagnosed. And 1 in 4 women are diagnosed with a mental illness. 1 in 7 men. I mean, what does this tell you? Okay, you're almost less likely to harm anybody if you're diagnosed with a mental illness than if you're not. Is it any wonder why they're pushing these drugs on as many people as they can? Because they're trying to neutralize any threat. And their answer is to give you a medication that is 75%. The odds are 75% to 25% that you will die as a result of these medications when you actually factor in everything and give an approximate estimate. Okay? You factor in diabetes and high blood pressure and Alzheimer's and neurological damage and cognitive impairment, and you truly understand how this relates to the causes of preventable death, and you factor in prescription pill abuse as the leading cause of death in teens in many places in America. I wouldn't be surprised if it's still the leading cause of death in teens in all of America. I said before and I'll say it again. Psychology is the #1 cause of death in adults, abortion in children, and psychiatry in teens. psychology adults, psychiatry teens, abortion, and children. Thank you.